How do you make a design stand out? Well, it's the same way you make anything stand out, by breaking free of the expected and being different. But different isn't always a good thing. If shown to the wrong person at the wrong time, it can be pretty disastrous.
It's wrong.
I like the lights.
Don't like it at all. Definitely not.
So how do brands like Liquid Death and Chin Chin Wine manage to be so different within their categories, but still sell like crazy? You'll learn exactly how in 3 key steps. Step 1. Know your category. Let's take red wine for example. Many of the bottles you might find will have pale labels with crests of traditional illustrations, serif typefaces, and lots of romance copy. These are known as category semiotics. Semiotics are a series of symbols or signs that intentionally or unintentionally communicate a meaning or feeling. So in this case, they're communicating heritage, quality, expertise, and sophistication. So we could easily stand out by breaking all of these category semiotics and doing something like this, which stands out purely by doing the opposite of everything else in the category. But we also lose everything that our semiotics were communicating, meaning the bottle looks bold, but cheap, amateur, and naive. So now that we know our category semiotics, how can we stand out by being different with purpose? This brings us to step 2. Know your audience. Let's say 100 people walk past a design that you have made so unique that they all stop and notice it. But the design just doesn't appeal to any of them. Nothing about it speaks to their lifestyle, interests, or buying choices. So while you have their eyeballs, it's all unwanted attention. You're basically just causing a scene. But there is one simple trick that ensures that we can stand out while still appealing to certain groups of people. And to show this, I want to go back to our wine example. If we wanted to create a wine that appeals to drinkers of craft beer, that's exactly where we would start. We need to look at the craft beer category semiotics and what they communicate. After a quick bit of research, 3 common things I've come across are expressive illustrations and patterns, creative naming, and a general craft aesthetic. This speaks to playfulness, a bold explorative attitude, and a love of craft. We can then merge these semiotics with more classical wine semiotics to end up with something like this. So we have a crest as a symbol for quality and heritage, with lots of romance copy to convey sophistication and flavour. We then balance this with some creative naming, a craft aesthetic through use of fonts and label design, and some expressive art to appeal to that sense of creativity and exploration that craft beer drinkers value, essentially creating a sort of best of both worlds design. So now if we drop this back into our original lineup, you can see how this could stand out and be intriguing to people we are targeting, while still communicating all of the things we want to communicate. And this is quite a mild example. You can push it way further, going really bold with it, as long as it makes sense for your target audience. This exercise gets very interesting when you break out of categories entirely to look at cultural trends. Let's take Chin Chin Wine by Noble Rot for example. Over the last few years, they have become hugely successful amongst the younger end of middle-class wine connoisseurs in the UK. Now, this is not the stuffy traditional audience you might be thinking of. These are often creative socialites who you might see at a modern art gallery or trendy new restaurant. They want to be seen as outgoing and inclusive. Chin Chin didn't just randomly pick their bright colours, expressive illustration style, and edgy typography purely to stand out. It aligns with the cultural trends that their audience follows. So now we understand how our category semiotics and cultural trends can be used to stand out to the right people. We can move on to step 3, context. So to explain this step, we're going to look at water, which is an ironically dry category. Nothing particularly interesting about these brands. How about now? Liquid Death Water is a liquid not all that different to any other brands, but through design, branding and marketing, it really stands out and is extremely successful. It's one of the fastest growing brands out there, but how does a brand like this sell anything? After all, it looks nothing like water. Well, they establish a clear audience of rebellious rock music and hip hop lovers, more likely to be found drinking beer at a rock or hip hop gig than sipping a bottle of Evian in the park, clearly dialing in to the rebellious aesthetic of those subcultures. They were then able to appear at events where their audience would be, such as Download Festival, the famous heavy metal music festival, and in other media channels like the podcast their audience were watching, offering a water design with massive standout to the right people within the right context. If you put this design in a totally different context, let's say the Ritz afternoon tea, you can imagine a very different outcome. So in theory, it's quite simple. To make a design successfully stand out, you need to find a gap in the market, See if there's anyone out there that would appreciate that gap being filled, design something that appeals to those people, and put it in the places accessible to those people. I'll finish on some other brands to check out that do this really well in their categories. Tenzing Natural Energy is a natural energy drink that immerses itself into the world of outdoor sports, appealing to people like climbers and hikers. And it's really disrupted the energy drink category in the UK with its natural offering while still clearly communicating that sense of energy and effectiveness. Rapha. This cycling brand carved out a niche in the market for cycling enthusiasts who have a bit of cash to spend and like to look good on the road. High quality is assumed, so they take a highly stylistic approach as opposed to focusing on the performance like most other cycling brands. They focus on beautifully scenic photography and videography, and even have a number of high-end cycling clubs around the world, generating a real feeling of community and exclusivity around their brand. So with all of these, you can see the value of disrupting a category rather than just copying what the market leaders do. Because really, when you're a newcomer trying to get people to notice you, you're unlikely to do that just by copying brands that they already have loyalty to and they already know and trust. You're much more likely to have success if you choose who you're targeting and really gear your design towards those people. So that's all for today. If you found this video helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. If you're hoping for more practical design tips or software tutorials, I have plenty of that on my channel page, so go check it out.